All right, welcome back, Powers on Sports podcast. Hopefully, you enjoyed our intro, and now we're going to get to our guest of the week. Mr. Mike Cairns is a longtime TV host around the country. Been worked in New York, Cleveland, D.C., now in Florida. Host of Spectrum Sports 360, the nightly show here in the Tampa Bay market and Orlando markets on Spectrum News. He gets to ask me some questions sometimes. I'm a part-time contributor to his show. Now I get to ask Mike Cairns the questions. Welcome in, Mike.
Hey, buddy, you're like our four-hole hitter, you know? We go to you when we need the big runs.
All right, we're gonna go around the sports potpourri world here with our chat with Mike, but I want to start with something that was a little more probably non-sports related that he got involved with last week. We had a major hurricane down here. If you don't, obviously, I'm in the Tampa Bay area. Mike's in the Tampa area as well. I saw Mike on the coverage. Mike got to cover the hurricane for Bay News 9. Not sports related. A lot of people suffering, a lot of tough moments. Just talk about that from a reporter's perspective of covering a story that's so, it's a bad story for a lot of people.
Uh, Worst one since I've been down here. Now, I've only lived here 8 years, but one of the things the sports department always does, we go out on hurricane coverage because obviously our shows are canceled and it's all hands on deck. So the entire sports department goes out. So this is my, I don't know, sixth, seventh hurricane that I've covered since I've been at Spectrum Bay News 9. But this is by far the worst. The damage that I saw and the places that I went to. In the past, it's been some flooding and some downed trees, but this was unlike anything I've seen. I mean, boats blowing into houses and boats in the middle of the street, a lake that overflowed that covered 5 and 6 blocks where the police are getting around on boats to try to get through these neighborhoods. So, yeah,
Rescuing people in like a 500-person rescue in an apartment complex I saw in Clearwater.
yeah, unbelievable. I mean, I live close to the beach, so where we got hit pretty bad because I live in South St. Pete, so Pinellas Point. I live about 4 blocks from the water. We were about 90 miles from the eye. And I took a lot of video. I stood out in the backyard when that thing was hitting us, when the eye was passing over us, because I'm a nut. I'm crazy. Um, who knows? I could have flown away like Dorothy, but I just needed to see it and hear it for myself because in the past, yes, we've had Ian and Adalia. I wasn't here for Charlie, the big one. Well, now this is the big one, but previously. So I wanted to see for myself, and I think I saw more than I needed to see. So prayers to everybody out there who's watching, who's been affected, who's still recovering. It's going to be a day-to-day process before we get back to life as we know it. Let's just hope that the hurricane season has ended earlier and not going to take us through the full couple months left in
Right.
this thing.
And again, people don't realize we had two back-to-back impacts here in Tampa within a week. I mean, once bad enough, but boy, tons of people that lived near the water got crushed during Helene because of the water surge. And this was a different kind of storm because it was almost a direct hit here when you had a whole set of different circumstances. So just two terrible storms here in an 8 or 9 day period for the Tampa Bay area. All right, let's get to the sports world here a little bit. You are a huge New York Mets fan. You worked in Cleveland for a long time. Just talk about, where did your Mets fandom come from?
Born and raised in upstate New York. My whole family still lives there. So I am New York blood through and through. So I'm extremely jacked, minus my New York Giants, but extremely jacked about the upcoming sports year with my New York Rangers, my Mets, my Knicks. All had tremendous years last year. Of course, Mets and Dodgers right now. Uh, Game 3 tonight as we're
Yeah.
speaking. Pretty psyched about that. So just I was a pitcher in high school, big Tom Seaver fan. So that was Tom Seaver was the only poster that I had on my wall was
Nice.
Tom. So a huge Tom Seaver fan and lived and died with the Metis. So yeah, that's kind of where that comes from, being a lifelong New Yorker.
Talk about working in a place like Cleveland again. So, obviously Cleveland's in the ALCS with the Yankees down 0-2. You got the Browns. We'll talk about the Browns in a second here, but just talk about Cleveland gets kind of a bad rep nationwide. People always make fun of Cleveland, but it's a sports town, pretty good sports town, huh?
Oh, 100%. Best sports town that I've ever been in. I was in DC, New York, but not the city. Here obviously. But Cleveland got that's a city that's close to my heart. I worked there 16 years. And I heard the rep, that you were talking about, all the knocks on Cleveland, the fire on the lake, the Cuyahoga River on fire, all that crap. But when I got there, I realized that this city just lives and breathes sports, from the Cavs to the Browns to the Indians, now the Guardians. Just unbelievable. I covered so many great moments. Unfortunately, not many with the Browns, but mostly with the Indians before they were the Guardians. And
Sure.
the irony in the Indians series too, Alex Cobb got the start
Right.
for the Indians. Ironically, and I mentioned this to my Guardians friends, do you realize Alex Cobb started for the Rays in that wild card to beat the Indians when the Indians had one of their best seasons? They won 92 games that year. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Alex Cobb was kind of just a throw-in for Tampa Bay to start against the Indians. And the Indians made a controversial move by starting Danny Salazar when they had their big guns in the pen, thinking, we're just going to beat Tampa Bay. No problem. We're going to go on to game one. Well, it backfired on him because Cobb threw an unbelievable game against the then Indians and knocked him out. So, covering that market for a long, long time. Obviously I grew up with LeBron, covered LeBron, known LeBron since he was an eighth grader. So I've seen him develop into the guy that he is.
Yep.
So I know a lot of people either love or hate LeBron, depending on where you are. I mean, I'm a LeBron fan because I know him. I know him as the little kid that I
Yep.
saw. Those kind of things kind of stick with you. And I've never been closer to a market than that one, because you really feel Cleveland's a big market. People don't realize how
That's
big
right.
Cleveland. It's a little, just a couple of markets smaller than the Tampa Bay market, because Cleveland has, Akron, which is where LeBron's from. It encompasses more than people realize. So, Ohio State, it's a huge college town,
Right.
college football. So Jason, that's just a city that's really dear to my heart. And I started to become affected by the knocks that Cleveland would get.
Right.
This is woe is Cleveland. Oh, and my wife and I still do this to the day. Watch any TV show, and you can do this, play the same game. Watch any TV show, doesn't matter what the genre is, see how many times they mention Cleveland. Like, I'm from Cleveland, the actor, whatever. And my
Right.
wife would say the same thing. She could be in the kitchen working on something, and we hear it, we go, Cleveland. Um, for a city that gets so much junk and crap thrown at them, they're mentioned more than anything that I've
Yeah.
ever imagined. So it was a great time there for sure. I really liked it.
All right, let's stay in Cleveland. Let's talk. Let's go to the Browns. Give me a thought or two about this whole Deshaun Watson situation, and they're stuck there. Obviously, he was the first to kind of get the fully guaranteed contract with all the off field stuff. They knew about all that stuff. You knew they knew when they brought him to Cleveland. That move is just completely backfired. Just give me a thought or two about that.
Dude, brutal. I thought when they got him, I thought it was a mistake. To pay that much money for someone coming out of the situation that he was coming out of. And I know the Browns were desperate for a
Yep.
winner, and desperate to kind of turn the corner, and they thought they had all the pieces but a quarterback. Uh, I don't think the team played any better than when Joe Flacco was the quarterback, to be honest. I thought he was the perfect quarterback. And
Right.
if you look at the history of the Browns, these old retread quarterbacks that they've used, the Bernie Kosars and the guys like that, those have been the most successful Browns quarterbacks. I go all the way back. I got there just as they were coming back for their first year. I got there in 2000. 99 is when they came back after Art Mordell screwed them. And I'm still sorry. Yeah, I'm still pissed about that. So I was there for the Chris Palmer was the head coach at the time. Tim Couch was their quarterback that they drafted out of Kentucky. Still one of the best quarterbacks they've ever had. Unfortunately, he was one of the most sacked quarterbacks they've ever had in the history of
Kelly
that team, which
Holcomb.
cost him his
Kelly
career.
Holcomb.
Oh yeah, Kelly Holcomb, Jeff Garcia.
Yep.
Garcia actually led them to some playoffs. Butch Davis was one of their best head coaches
Right.
before they fired him. So they've had some quarterbacks, and they list this long list on T-shirts and make fun of how many guys that they've had. But Jason, to be honest with you, Deshaun Watson is just a huge mistake, and I don't know how they're going to get out of this with all the guaranteed money because they're on
Right.
the hook. And their upper management has made some great decisions and come up with some great guys. And brought in some great guys. The Cooper trade was a great trade for Cooper. It really
Yep.
was. He needed to have a different quarterback, and I think they really did him a solid. by trading him to a quarterback who's going to get the
Yep.
most out of him. Because let's face it, it's a crap show in Cleveland right now, quarterback. And they have as good a defense as anybody. They have an offense that can score points. You just don't have a quarterback. And more than anybody in the NFL, you don't have a good quarterback, you don't have a chance.
And they got somebody who they could go to, Jameis. I mean, again, he's not great, but they're just so stuck to the salary. I don't know what because obviously if you bench him, how do you go back to him? But that's the dilemma.
Yeah, and it's too bad. You and I both seen Jameis play a lot of games from college all the way to
Yep.
here with the Bucks, and he's won a lot of big games. I don't know why they won't give him a chance. I don't know why it's not Jameis time. I get it that they're hamstrung, but at some with the contract. But at some point, you got to say look at your record right now, and you look at the percentage of teams that have made the playoffs with that record. It's really, really low. And the Browns' percentage of making the playoffs, period, is really, really low before the start of the season. Cleveland just doesn't do that. So now's the time. I'm sorry. You're going to have to bite the bullet and say, yep, we're wrong. Should never have given out all that money. But you know what? This is for our team. This is for the fans that follow this team. We want to win. And by playing Deshaun Watson, you're not saying to me, I want to win football games.
And I can't imagine the fan base if there's another week or two of this, the fan base is
Oh,
going to go nuts at home games. Seriously.
unbelievable. Yeah, and they're some of the best fans in all of the NFL with the dog pound, etc. Nobody deserves to win games more than the Browns. I'm sorry. That
Yeah.
is a team that if that team ever makes it to a Super Bowl,
Right.
that will be one of the most watched Super Bowls in the history of the NFL. I can guarantee you that because everybody knows the story of Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, and the Browns. So I can't imagine if they don't make the Super Bowl, which of course coming out of the AFC is a beast in itself.
Right.
But if they ever made a Super Bowl by some miracle, that would, to me, in my opinion, I don't care who they play, that's going to be the most watched Super Bowl in the history of the league.
Give me a thought. You mentioned that Amari Cooper got traded to Buffalo yesterday. Give me a thought about the Devontae Adams trade to the Jets. You think that's going to make a tangible impact there?
I was thinking of this because, you're on our face-off segment all the time. I said this to our producers yesterday. I'm like, great face-off segment for Powers and Neighbors or whoever Powers is with. I'm like, who got the better deal, Cooper or Adams? Like,
Right.
who got the better wide receiver? And I started thinking that. I'm like, oh, what a great topic to go back and forth.
That
You
is
and I
good.
could debate this for hours right now. You watched that Bills-Jets game. It was a nightmare. I mean, it was just disgusting. There's missed field goals left and right. There was like 20 penalties in that game.
Uh-huh.
Fights all over the place, which you would expect in that division. Just awful. And Josh Allen, what came out of it was he doesn't have any receivers.
Right.
He's on zero. And you still wonder, why'd you trade Steph Diggs? What did you get for Steph Diggs? What have you done? Josh Allen can't do everything. And at the beginning of the season, the Bills were like, well, he's not going to run as much. We're going to keep more in the pocket. We're afraid of him taking the big hits.
Yep.
Oh, when his receivers can't catch a damn ball, he's like, screw this. I'm running. I'm
Right.
throwing. I'm going back to Josh Allen circa 2 years ago, and I'm going to win these games myself. Sorry, Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel. These are guys that are retread from other teams.
They're threes and fours. They're not ones. They're threes and fours.
100%. 100%. Amari Cooper is a
Professional receiver. Professional.
Proven guy. Devontae Adams, sure, he's reunited with Aaron Rodgers, and I saw some stats that they're the number one tandem in the NFL since like 2012 or something crazy like that. They've had more yards, more targets, more receptions, more anything. So he's with the guy that brings the best out of him,
Right.
and vice versa. Let's see how that works, and then let's see what kind of effect that it has on some of the younger receivers
Right.
that he's working with. I think that's even the bigger deal because I love Devontae Adams. I think he's a pro's pro. There's no ego there. He just wants to win, and they weren't going to win in Las Vegas. There's just no question about that. So I'd like to see how that pans out. It was a great move. I think the Jets had to pull the trigger because that division's a winnable division.
It is.
Nobody wants that division right now. So I think that trade was a great trade. In a lot of ways, I think both of those trades were good trades, and the fact that they were triggered within minutes of one another.
I agree.
I saw your ESPN like pop. Oh, Devontae Adams goes, and like it seemed like minutes later, I get another one from ESPN says, "Oh, guess what? Cooper's gone."
Yeah,
I think we're both going to benefit, bud.
I agree. I totally agree. Give me a thought about Nick Sirianni. You saw the outburst to the fans after the game. I mean, he seems like he's digging his own grave there in Philadelphia, huh?
Yeah, he really is, and a lot of that is, they say coaches don't get fired, players get coaches fired. That they haven't had a good, they haven't had a their players have not had good years. Jalen Hurts has not been good this year. I'm
Yep.
sorry,
Yep.
he just hasn't. They've also had injuries. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. You can't win games with your two best receivers missing 2, 3 games at a time. That's not going to help you win divisions. Now, on the flip side, that division is so winnable. My Giants haven't done anything. They play the Eagles this week. The Cowboys, horrible, horrible start for the Cowboys. I don't think the Commanders sustain the start that they have. I think Daniels is having a tremendous year. He looks like he's going to be a quarterback for a long time in the league. But I think Sirianni doesn't get fired only because of how bad that division is right now. If the Cowboys were running away with the division and the Eagles are in third or even last place, I think there's a different conversation to be had. But with the games coming up on the Eagles schedule,
Right.
I think they keep thinking we're going to turn this thing around. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to find he's going to find it. He's going to turn it around. And we've got AJ Brown and Smith back together for the first time in like 3 weeks. Last week was their first time together. So since the beginning of the season, who knows? I mean, they're kind of hoping that turns around. That might serve Sirianni because that division's so bad.
All right, Powers on Sports Podcast. You listen to Mike Cairns, Spectrum Sports 360 host down here in the Tampa area, longtime veteran broadcaster all over the country, New York, D.C., Cleveland. He's done some play-by-play stuff in his career, lots and lots of stuff throughout his career. Does a great job. Allows me to come on his show every once in a while and back and forth with him and some other guys here in the Tampa area. Let's go to a little college football. Are you a fan of the playoff? Are you a fan of the 12-team playoff?
I am. I really am. I think college football needed some kind of shakeup. And by adding the fact that the way that is set up, I think it is going to be a lot of fun to watch when we get to the postseason. Now, I don't think there should be as many bowl games. I think and I understand the money behind what they're doing, but some of these garbage bowl games are just,
Yeah.
why would I want to watch 6 and 6 play, 5 and 7 or whatever it is, or 6 and 8, whatever they do, as long as they get their 6 wins, they get in. I don't know about you, but I think they should, if they're going to start adding teams to playoffs, they should start taking away bowl games because there's no reason we need to start watching bowl games before Christmas that nobody cares about.
And I hate to say that there's a bowl game here that nobody cares about too. It's not just they're all over
Yeah,
the place. And unfortunately, as you know, working in that world, it's TV content. ESPN needs TV content during the month of December, and that's a way to do it.
you're right. You're right. And the fact is that you watch it, well, first of all, they're not going to have any bowl games at the Trop, that's for sure,
Yeah,
ever again.
right.
So the bowl game, to watch the fourth place team in the American Conference play, the fifth place team and one of the other.
HTC or whatever.
Yeah, it's just not worth it to me. I never watch those games. Get
Right,
me to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then the playoffs.
right.
I'm good. But up until then, I could care less who's playing. And there's never been a good bowl game to watch before that.
There's been some wild games the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the Ohio State Oregon game. We got Georgia Texas this week. In your mind, give me the top 2 or 3 teams in the country for you through 7 weeks.
I love Texas. Ooh, boy, Texas is so good. I've watched them the last couple of weeks. To me, they have everything. They are just loaded.
All right, we've frozen up here with Mike Cairns here. Give me a second here. We'll see if this unfreezes. This is called live interviewing on the fly here on our Zoom. Our Zoom has frozen up with Mike, so hopefully we'll get him back here in a second. Mike was talking about his favorite teams. We'll see if we can get Mike back here. Uh-oh. Mike has left us, so Mike hopefully will jump back on here in just a second. We'll get him to communicate his thought about Texas as we move through the college. Again, Texas, Georgia, and Texas on Saturday in Austin, the primetime game. You got Alabama, Tennessee, which will be a huge game here on the college football docket as well. So let's see here if we can get Mike back here in a second. The beauty of technology, recording these interviews. So appreciate you finding us. Powers on Sports Podcast. Remember, if you have not already done so, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us on Twitter and X at JPO Sports. Love to hear your comments. So we're gonna see if Mike Cairns can get back with us here in just a second. Give him another minute or so to see if we can get Mike back. Again, Powers on Sports Podcast. Again, um, Mike's a long time media member or numerous places around the country. And just hang on a second here. We'll see if we can get Mike back. We'll get him talking a little college football, and then here he comes. Mike is back joining us here. Just give me 10 more seconds and he'll be back on. All good, Mike. Welcome to, I was just telling the audience, live technology, the day and age of technology, man.
I couldn't tell if that was my internet or yours. I just saw it go and like, okay, here we are. Awesome stuff.
All right, communicate your thought again about Texas. You were talking about Texas that you liked them so much before we got cut off.
Yeah, I think Texas is clearly the number one team in the country, and I don't think they get enough credit for the defense they play. I think the defense has been amazing, but with the conference they play in, the schedule that they have, and what they've done so far to get off to the start that they've got to, I think that's your team to beat, no question about it. But teams behind it, I didn't realize Oregon was as good as they were.
Right.
They went in and took care of my Buckeyes, and I thought that would be a better game than it was. So. There's a lot of teams. I mean, how about Miami?
Right.
What they've done down there. Now, not Miami hasn't played anybody really yet, but the fact that they're off to an undefeated start, interested to see what happens with them. They could be your ACC champ that you're looking at right there with the way everything else is starting to shake out. But I like Texas by far, and that's not a front runner because they're number one in the country. I just think they've outplayed every single team, and they have played like a number one team in the country.
And a tricky game for Miami this week at Louisville, 12 o'clock start. They've come off two emotional wins the last couple weeks. So if they can get through this Louisville game, I think they got a great chance to see Clemson probably in the ACC title game. And probably if they go undefeated, they're probably going to make the playoff even if they were to lose to Clemson. But tricky game this week for Miami at Louisville this week. All right, get you last couple things to get you out of here. Down here in the Florida market, give me a thought or two about Billy Napier and the Florida program. What's their future, and is he dead man walking?
I think out of all the Florida coaches, that's the guy who sits on the hottest seat. There's no question about it. Since Napier's taken over that program, they really haven't done anything. You expected so much with the hype that Napier came in, but to his credit, who's his quarterback been?
Right.
How many healthy running backs has he had? Some of his key players are out injured. It's to the point where you're only as good as the 22 guys that you put on the field every week. He hasn't been able to say, I can't say he's ever put his best 22 out there for an entire game that didn't make it through the first snap to the last snap. And now, obviously, every college football coach has that same issue. But I think Napier's snake bit by a lot of things. And I think injuries have come back to hurt him. Jason, you and I just beat it like a dead horse. You need a quarterback.
Yeah.
How many good quarterbacks have they had in Florida? Can you bring back
since Tebow? Can you name a great one?
Exactly, 100%. You can't. In college football, more than any sport, flows with that position. Quarterback. You can take a mediocre team with a great quarterback in college football and get yourself into a bowl game and get into a good bowl game.
Uh-huh.
Many teams have done
Look
it.
at Miami. Look at what Miami's doing this
Right.
year.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And when Miami realized they needed a quarterback, they went out and got one. And look what happened. Just like you said, they recognized, and the transfer portal has a lot to do with that. And and it seems like quarterbacks transfer more than anybody in the portal than any position.
Yep.
Let's face it. Quarterbacks are prima donnas. They're princesses. Oh, no, I'm not getting a snap anymore. Oh, no, that coach doesn't like me anymore. Oh, wait, this coach got a hold of me. I'm going to go over here and be their starting quarterback.
Uh-huh.
They get off to an 0-4 start, and you're like, oh, maybe this is, I don't have the best receivers. That position, to me, transfers more than any in college football, and it's annoying to watch because there's some guys. Who's the kid that was at UCF? That went to Oklahoma. He's on like his 17th.
Dylan Gabriel is at Oregon.
Dylan Gabriel. He's been, 6 or 7 years in the portal. It's like, dude, hang it up. You're not going pro. Go take a high school job if you want to be around football. That kid, and he's had some good years. At Oklahoma, he had a great year. The next thing you know, he's transferring. Like, what are you doing?
He beat your Buckeyes Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made me think about him. Like, oh, good. How long is he going to stay there? I guess he's staying there because Oregon's undefeated. Okay, let's see how long that lasts. But everywhere he's gone, he's been successful. Successful. I just don't know why he leaves.
Money. He's getting paid about 1.5 to go to Eugene.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You're right. The NIL, boy, guys getting paid to play. And there's guys that we don't even know about that aren't even that good. They're probably making a ton of money.
Look up at Tallahassee, the guy getting paid up at Tallahassee, and they're 1-5.
Exactly. The better your boosters, the better you're going. That's what if I was in the transfer portal, I'm like, who's got the richest boosters in college football?
Yes.
That's where I want to transfer to.
Absolutely. Is John, and I'm just going to throw out a couple names, is John Gruden a viable candidate potentially at Florida? Would Florida hire him?
Ooh, would Gruden want to come out and take over that program? I think is the more interesting question. Is he happy where he's at? Does he even have the itch?
Sounds like he does. He does.
It does sound like he does, and it sounds like they would have to pay him a lot of money. So, to answer your question, yes, I could see him if the boosters get together and go, man, it's going to take a lot of money to get him here, but we all know they got it. So it would not surprise me in the least. Well, what about this? Is Nick Saban done? Is he done?
Right.
Is he done? I mean, is he done being Pat McAfee's friend on College Game Day and having him give him wet willies and all that stuff? Is he done, or would somebody pay Saban to come out of retirement and say, look,
here's $20 million for 5 years.
Right. And Saban may not say, I don't want to be the head coach, but I will be the athletic director of your program and hire your next head coach. Or they hire Saban as a consultant and say, find our next coach. Right. Who should be our coach? If Florida was smart, that's where I'd start. I'd go out and hire him as a consultant. If he's not interested in the job, I'm like, give us some help here because obviously we ain't getting it right.
All right. Does Frankie Lindor deserve to be the MVP over Ohtani?
I wish I could say yes. He's having a phenomenal season, but no, it's Ohtani. You don't go 50-50 and then get bypassed for the MVP. And I still think, the Dodgers are a heavy favorite over the Mets, no question about it. I mean, the Mets are a severe underdog in this series, but
are they? I don't know about that now.
Well, here's the thing. If they could, and the same with the Guardians series. So 2 quick thoughts. If the Mets starting pitching can continue to do what they've done, they've got a chance against the Dodgers because it seemed like the Dodgers have unlimited arms. The Mets bullpen sucks. They have retreads. Phil Maton, he was with the Rays. He couldn't get an out with the Rays. Every time he comes in, I want to throw something at the TV. I'm like, why is Maton in there? Their middle relievers are horrible.
Edwin Diaz is a little shaky at the end too.
Exactly, and that's the lockdown guy for the Mets. Right. You're thinking, just get us to Diaz and we're good. So starting pitching continues to pitch, do what they do because the Mets can hit. They can score runs. They can play defense. That series is great. For the Guardians, if they can just get to the damn Yankees bullpen, it's horrible. If they can do that, they have a chance to come back in this series. But game three, it's an understatement, but it's the biggest game in the series, 100%. You lose that one, you're done.
And
You're
both
done.
those venues will be rocking, Cleveland and New York for the next three. Remember, it's a 2-3-2 format, so they get three in a row in their ballpark. So, Mike Cairns, enjoy your New York Mets Wednesday night, game three. Your
Oh,
that's it, baby. That's it. Your Indians are going home on Thursday for three in a row. Hopefully, they can take it back to New York. Awesome job, man. Appreciate you having me on your show, and we will talk soon.
you're the best, man. Thank you.
You got it.